Horror Coast to Coast is a movie review podcast featuring strong language, horror film spoilers, and discussions of violence, gore, and disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Vampires Coast to Coast, where we discuss vampires from opposite sides of the continental U.S. From the sanguine hollows of New England, I'm Brian.
And from the cursed coastlines of California, I'm Michelle.
And this week we're talking about Bloodsucking Bastards from 2015, directed by Brian James O'Connell and written by Ryan Mitz and Dr. God.
Yeah, so this movie is advertised as a guy who is trying to save his office from a vampiric overtaking as well as win back his girlfriend, which I guess that's basically the plot.
It's accurate.
Yeah, pretty accurate. This is a horror comedy, which I have no strong feelings about. I like them. I don't have any issues with them. I didn't know what this was going to be, actually. I was thinking, based on the title, it would just be like a low-budget kind of horror movie, but then I was pleasantly surprised. Pre-movie, I had no idea who the director was. I did very little digging into the movie. I only saw Fran Kranz, who I've seen in multiple things before, Pedro Pascal, so exciting. I had no clue what to expect.
So did you make the connection that this is not the first time you've seen a clean-shaven Pedro Pascal as a vampire?
No. What else has he been in?
He was in Buffy Season 4, Episode 1, The Freshman.
No way. What?
He plays Buffy's classmate who goes missing and shows up again as a vampire.
No way. That's so cool. That's funny.
So the next time you see a clean-shaven Pedro Pascal, you know he's a vampire.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. That's the marker, huh? I was going to look up whether he had done any earlier movies in this style, but I lost track of time. My internet was not doing so great, so I didn't do it. But yeah, I mean, my first impressions, clearly an Office Space vibe.
Yeah.
Cool opening, fun music.
Yeah, so I wrote Buffy plus Shaun of the Dead plus Cabin in the Woods plus Office Space.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think some of these actors were in Cabin at the Woods, right?
Well, the lead was, yeah.
Only Fran Kranz? That's it?
I'm not sure. Was there someone else?
What about his friend, his stoner friend, Joey Kern?
Was he in Cabin in the Woods?
I don't know. I thought maybe I'd seen him. Or maybe I'd seen him.
Oh, he was in Cabin Fever.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Cabin Fever is what he's from.
Yeah, he was the douchebag in Cabin Fever.
Yeah. Okay.
Much more likable in this one.
Yeah. I just made all of these really funny notes. I didn't have any criticism to offer her basically. Well, I have some stuff at the end where I wrote down things that maybe could have made it a little more augmented, but for the most part, I just wrote down all of my funny offhand impressions. I wrote, didn't SpongeBob teach you anything about taking out the trash at night? And at least he got the screaming right at the end.
So did you look into Dr. God at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I was like, who the hell is Dr. God? So I had to look that up.
Yeah.
And Dr. God is a comedy group. So Sean Cowling played Jerry the janitor. Neil Garjulio played Mike. Brian James O'Connell was the director, and I think he also was a background character. And then Dave Park played Dave, who was the guy who kept bugging them about the NCAA pool.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then Justin Ware is Andrew. So half the cast is part of this comedy group that goes by Dr. God. So presumably all of them also had a part in writing it.
Right. Okay. So this is like a Broken Lizard type thing. Awesome.
That's exactly what I was going to say. But the bad news is I went to their website and it said soon our first movie, Bloodsucking Bastards, will be out.
Oh no, this was like 10 years ago.
So it hasn't been updated in a decade. Yeah. So I guess we're not getting a string of Dr. God comedy horrors in the style of the like Broken Lizard movies. Too bad.
Okay. Well, yeah, too bad. I thought this was super fun. Heavy into the comedy. I loved it. I wrote hate his hair, but I don't know who I was talking about. And then I wrote down knuckle children, gross.
Oh, you know what I wrote down is puncture monkeys.
Oh yeah, there were so many like funny quips. Yeah, I don't oh, I wrote missed opportunity because at one point he says, "We've got to take care of these blood-sucking vampires." And I'm like, "No, that's a missed opportunity. You got to throw the movie title in there. That's exactly where you say it." But they said it at the end, so it wasn't like a big deal.
Yeah, I think it might have worked better like when you said.
Yeah, well, I mean, because that's the first time they hint at it, and so it's like, well, I don't know, don't hint at it, just say it. But, yeah, and then I said slow moving into the horror elements. I thought there was a lot of buildup. In fact, the first horror thing, besides the intern disappearing, I think he that was an off-screen thing, and then a few things happen off-screen, but the first actual, like, horror gore doesn't happen until the hour mark, and the movie's only an hour, like, 20.
Yeah, that's true.
So I did write down that it was slow moving into the horror elements. And then one other part where well, is the guy's name Evan, the main character? I
Yes.
think it was Evan. He is creeping around the office, and it was really hard to figure out where he was in relationship to where the vampire that was pursuing him was. And I just figured I just kept thinking, how does this thing that is supernatural, probably has enhanced hearing, how did he not hear him creeping around, crawling around the floor? He didn't seem to be doing anything to make himself less conspicuous, and so that was just a tiny detail that just noticed while I was watching. But again, not a big deal. I mean, I didn't think there was anything too egregious in terms of things that were done wrong. It was just I mean, I think they were effective and successful in the tone and atmosphere that they were trying to go for. At least I assume so.
Yeah, so I felt like the worst thing this did is it just wasn't ambitious enough. Like there wasn't it could have used just a little bit more of something. Like there's no twist at all. So you get that speech from Max as soon as it's introduced and it's basically the I'm a vampire speech. There's no like subversion or anything. There's no mystery of where the vampires are coming from the whole movie.
Yeah.
And then
I mean,
there's little bits of, like, social commentary, but nothing ambitious, just, like, a couple digs at, like, work culture and stuff. I just feel like it just coulda used a little bit more of something. I don't know what it would have to be, it could have been anything, but, it was it's their first movie, and I think for that, like, damn good first movie. It's it's sad that this is apparently gonna be their only movie, because I mean, I imagine it would have been updated by now if they were still together.
yeah.
Oh, and Matthew Lillard shows up for 30 seconds?
Yeah, I wrote that. I was like, "Why?" And I saw his name in the credits, and I was like, Matthew Lillard turns his head and has one line? That was
I
crazy.
didn't see it in the credits, but yeah, get that check, Matthew. Just showed up, got the check, and left.
But got the check from, like, a small-time comedy troupe that only put out 1 movie. Get your check from a
He
bigger
probably did it for dirt cheap, because from everything I've heard, like, all over the internet, Matthew Lillard is, like, the nicest guy in horror.
okay. Okay. Well, that's nice to know, and that's a good feeling. But so when you were saying that there wasn't a twist, I think the twist was supposed to be that the boss was in on it the whole time, that he knew what was
Oh,
going on.
yeah, I
And I
guess that's
didn't quite
true.
get that. He came across as being kind of dopey and stupid.
Yeah.
At the very least, I was under the impression he was being like manipulated or was under a trance or something because he seemed to have that effect at times, but it wasn't consistent, I
Well,
think.
they did allude to
Um,
the fact that Max, Peter Pascal's character, does have that ability because he uses it on Mandy a couple times.
yeah,
Or he might have been.
right. So I thought that was the case. But I guess okay, so not a big enough twist for
It
you.
wouldn't even necessarily need like a twist, but like any kind of subversion or just like something a little extra. But it's a super minor criticism because all around, like, I thought it was a really fun movie. I would watch this again, like, multiple times.
Yeah, I agree, and I wrote that down.
And it's in the vein like Cabin in the Woods and Shaun of the Dead. These are movies I'll watch probably like a dozen more times in my life. And this one, I don't know about a dozen, but I'll watch it a couple more times.
Yeah. I wrote that down as well. Like, I wrote down what a fun movie because I thought I watched it during the workday because I was like slow on emails and nothing's really happening, so might as well put a movie on while I wait for something to pop in my inbox and I was quite happy. In fact, I was working next to Henry and I had my headphones on and I had to try to stifle my laughter a few times because he was on calls. But and then at the end, I was like, "Oh, I feel bad. I just, like, watched a fun movie and had a great time, and he's working." But, um, yeah, so I wrote down, a few criticism of office work, but nothing too over the top. I did write the vampire effects were awesome. Very gross.
Oh, yeah. So vampires just explode now, huh?
I guess so. I like it.
Because they did that in the last movie too. This is the 21st century vampire lore, is that vampires just exploding to blood when you kill them.
Yeah. There's no, like, pittering out and sizzling into the floor anymore or turning into dust. Um, yeah, the gore, it's there. I like it. Yeah, and I wrote weird Matthew Lillard cameo. Didn't expect that. So the only other thing I wrote is that I thought the rules of vampirism were a little unclear, but it still worked for this movie. I didn't think that the mythology was all that important. It was more a general understanding of vampires, and that's really all you needed here. So I thought that was fine.
Yeah, something I thought was interesting. So some of the characters, when they became vampires, became like opposite themselves. Like the NCAA pool guy was like kind of meek and then he became like super badass. But the gender just kind of stayed the same, except he looked creepier. And like that girl Zabeth, she was kind of meek and then she was like super sexually aggressive afterwards. So it's like, does it make you opposite or does it make you more of the same? Or that was kind of weird to me.
Or
Yeah,
Andrew,
Andrew
he
was.
had all of his faculties. He was the
Well, he
same.
went from being super lazy to being super duper productive. But yeah, he was still the same person, right to the fact that like he wanted to hang out with his best friend still, which was very Shaun of the Dead. Oh, my best friend's undead moment.
Yeah. When did Shaun of the Dead come out? Because is this a
Oh, that
clear
was way before this.
what'd you say, earlier than this?
Yeah, I think that was in the OOs, not the teens.
Okay. Yeah, because that's clearly I would say that's clearly an influence in that
And
respect.
Buffy clearly is too, right? Like with the
Oh,
vampire
yeah.
facial transformations. And just a lot. It
Yeah.
definitely had some Buffy vibes.
Oh, yeah, I had this as a Office Space/Bussy immediately.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I think of Fran Kranz and I think of Joss Whedon because he's been in a few Joss Whedon things. I think he was in, Dollhouse too.
I've never seen that.
So oh, you've never seen Dollhouse?
No.
It's pretty good. It's one of the single season shows, um, along with Firefly, so he is a character in that one, and I don't know, Dollhouse was fine. It's not certainly don't think it is deserving of the fan petitioning for another season the way Firefly had, but I thought it was fine, and that's probably why there hasn't been any other exploration of it.
Was Elijah Dushku in that?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, I think I remember it from being like the thing that Elijah Dushku was in after Buffy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was the plot is it's Elijah Dushku is she's like a blank character. Like she has no well, actually she has a background, but she's part of a program where she's uploaded with different personalities and then she's sent on missions. And when she comes back, her personality is in white and she's given a different personality to go on a mission. And so the show was about the people who work at this facility that runs the Dollhouse program. So, but yeah, it ran for a season and I liked it. But I mean, that I also watched it at a time when I was gobbling up all of Joss Whedon's material. So that probably had an effect on that. But yeah, if you can find a copy of the season somewhere, go ahead, give it a watch. It's only one if that was all that was ever made. But yes, I definitely wrote down um, Office Space, Buffy the Vampire vibe. And I actually was really referring to the original Buffy the Vampire,
Yeah,
not the Joss Whedon show, because
I
I
could
thought it
see
was
that.
like that kind of goofy vampire. Some of them are more effective than others. You know, some of them are stronger than others, but more dangerous. Some of them are just silly. And that for me is where the Buffy the Vampire movie influences sort of felt the strongest. But yeah, like I said, I really liked it. I wrote down some of the lines were great. Some of them were kind of cheesy.
Yes.
The line I wrote down that I thought was the strangest, but I also liked was someone has violated the sovereignty of my vehicular transport, which I wrote after that. Why did Frank just turn into a random badass? He starts off at the beginning being kind of this dopey, not quite all there, maybe traumatized from military service. I couldn't quite tell what they were going for with his character. But then he turns into, you think this is my first vampire hunt? Like, he's the guy who just knows everything.
That was actually the vibe I got from the beginning, is that I thought that was pretty much going to be his trajectory. I thought this is the guy who's been waiting for his moment. And it's like, oh, shit's gone down. It's my
Sure.
time. And like, I knew there was going to be kind of a dichotomy there.
Well, I think my issue with him was, one, it was way too slow. And then two, he came across as being not necessarily somebody who just had wild ideas. And then because in those character arcs, they start out as like kind of a goofy person and everyone knows they're just collecting they're just hoarding weapons and they're doomsday prepping and it's silly and we're never going to need that stuff and but then push comes to shove, that's the character you turn to. And I didn't feel that with him. I felt that his character was really somebody who was just not all there. Especially, I didn't understand why they kept calling him Colonel. Was his last name Sanders? Is that what it was?
Yeah, Evan's last name was Sanders.
Okay. So when he said Colonel Sanders, I couldn't tell if he was being serious about that or if it was a
Oh,
joke.
I
And
took it
so
as
it
a
wasn't
joke.
until later when someone said, "Oh, I get it, Colonel Sanders." But was Frank saying it as a joke? If he was, it was a very deadpan delivery, and I didn't catch it at all until later when they said that it was a
I
joke.
mean, all his jokes were though. He was like deadpan the whole time with all his jokes.
Yeah. No, I got it, but it came across as being like he's not quite all there. It didn't come across as deadpan because I don't know, I just didn't feel like a deadpan delivery even though looking back on it, it clearly
I
was,
feel like
but it
Frank is
felt
neurodivergent and you're being very ableist right now.
that's what I'm wondering, is that what's going
I mean, he
on?
could be, but
Like,
I feel like it's a valid character. Like, I feel like he had a fun personality.
I don't know. I mean, I liked him in the end, and I was like, "How did he get so badass?" But I feel like his character didn't quite wake up until shit hit the fan, and that's, I guess, what the intention was, but I had no idea that this was the way he was going to come
I
alive.
mean, it was kind of there from the beginning because he found like the tiny speck of blood when Evan was like screaming that Mike was dead. And like the super vampire janitor who's supposed to be able to clean everything instantly Frank found that one speck of blood.
Forgets one speck. Mm,
So I
yeah.
feel like the seeds were there from the
Okay.
beginning.
Okay. All right. I can see that. But I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it again and see something else because I thought I didn't feel like he was this underestimated character that suddenly comes to life. I thought he was an ineffective security guard who suddenly became effective. Like he's watching cat videos and he's like, I know this cat. And you're like, what's going on? Like, is he actually just sitting here? I don't know. I couldn't make heads or tails of it at the beginning. And then, everything fell into
I
place.
mean, to be fair, like Evan's friend Tim is like a slacker who plays video games at work and he kills like 130 vampires in the final battle and lives. So it's
Well,
like
yes, there is all that.
Frank wasn't that much of a badass when you compare him to like the slacker character.
Yeah. I do sort of love that scene where he's like, "Oh, yeah, you mean how everyone's a vampire?" And then he's like, "What do you mean? You knew?" And then it replays all that stuff, and that was very effective for
I
me.
really like Tim.
Liked who?
Tim.
Oh, Tim. Yeah, Tim was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim was great, and it was good. And I actually think this whole movie, I mean, I don't know how I feel about having a token female character. She's not part of Dr. God, is she?
No.
Okay, so I don't know how I feel about just having a token female character because I really felt like the love story, the love interest storyline was just extra, not necessary. Like they could have cut
Yeah.
it out, and I didn't even think that she really served a purpose. So,
It felt a bit like a great value version of the one in Shaun of the Dead.
oh God, okay, I have to see that movie. You talk about it all the time, and I haven't
Oh
seen it.
yeah, you haven't seen that? Oh yeah. Yeah, that's like I don't know, I feel like it's one of the original horror comedies, not like quite as old as like Army of Darkness, but like the current wave of horror comedies feels like it kind of stems from Shaun of the Dead to me.
Yeah, I can see that. Having not seen Shaun of the Dead, um, but I don't know. I would probably argue it's more of a Buffy? No?
Well, yeah, Buffy, I feel like it's not quite as horror as most of these horror comedies.
Well, it's definitely not the gore because it
It's
was
got a bit of a dramatic soap opera type thing and less of like a this wave of comedy horror movies with like I mean I guess yeah it was definitely influential on it for sure. But Cabin in the Woods feels like it's more solidly like Joss Whedon's horror comedy.
yeah, for sure. Okay, well, I don't have, any more notes left. I thought it was actually too short, which really not a problem, and I get it, like, maybe it would've droned on if there was any more material, but, I did think it moved slowly at the beginning and then rushed through the end.
If it had a little something extra, I think it would have had a little extra runtime too and it would have worked.
Yeah.
But I wish I could have seen what like if this was their debut, they got a little more comfortable, what their follow-up would have been. I feel like it could have been a solid run. But I guess this didn't make too much of a splash.
That's a
I'd
bummer.
never heard of it until you put it on this list. And this is probably a hot take for the internet, but I enjoyed this significantly more than I did Abigail. And the internet seems to love Abigail.
Really? I don't think that's a hot take. I enjoyed this way more than Abigail.
Well, I've never seen anyone talk to this.
I
It's
know.
definitely got lower ratings on like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, so it doesn't seem like this made much of a splash, unfortunately. But yeah, for one I hadn't heard of, pretty impressed.
Yeah, I don't know how I put it on the list or where it came from. It may have just been on Amazon Prime and I somehow got wind of it, but I'm also impressed. I mean, I think I landed on 3.5 stars, but I wouldn't be mad at 4 stars. But I do think when you're saying it needed something else, I agree with that. And so I'm pretty comfortable with 3.5 stars here.
Yeah. So I have like a couple more things.
Okay.
First of all, when in the last showdown, Max is like, Evan, you can go home for the day. Frank, you can die. It's like, what the fuck did Frank do to Max to earn such ire?
Yeah.
Did you notice that? Like, these characters have like never really interacted. It's like, why do you have so much shade for Frank?
Maybe he recognizes him as in a previous vampire hunt.
Also, just a weird thing I noticed. So, had you ever heard the name Zabeth before this?
No.
Yeah, I hadn't either, which is why I think this probably isn't a coincidence. So, the character Zabeth was played by Yvette Yates. And you know Elaine?
Yes, yes.
She was played by an actress named Zabeth Russell. So, do you think they named the Zabeth character after the actress?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I actually just assumed it was a quirky shortening of Elizabeth.
I did too, so I looked into it, and it's like another interpretation of the biblical name Elizabeth,
Oh,
but it's
okay.
like an actual name, which I'd never heard before.
I'd never heard it before either. And I think it's interesting that the the name sounds exotic and it's given to the exotic looking character, but the actual name is carried by a far less exotic character.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I wonder if they were like, you don't really look like a Zabeth. She looks like a Zabeth, so let's do that. That's interesting.
And one more thing I had to say was just that I wanted to know why Evan said no. Like, what was his perspective on it? Because he knows some reason why he said no in response to Mandy saying, I love
Yeah,
you. And it's like, I kind of just want to hear
I
why.
agree. I did think that part of the reason that whole storyline was weak was because her reaction to him was, I think, over the top. Um, Hurt feelings are one thing, but like going past professional courtesy, I think is a different story. And it it just felt like, should we talk about this? How long had they been dating? There were too many questions and not a good enough explanation for any of it.
So they could have had it be the reason he said no is because he's been working up the courage to say it, and this was going to be the night, and she beat him to it.
That could have been a great explanation, yeah, but we didn't get any explanation, and in fact, his friend, and I know he was being his friend, didn't seem to offer when he had that conversation with her to say, "Did you ever think maybe he feels this way?" Which is sort of the friend role when you're, like, standing up for your friend and someone else is not being fair to them, right? You say, "Well, did you ever consider it from their point of view?" He never says anything like that, he just simply says, "Okay, I get it. You're mad, but you're being a little over the top right now, and like, cut him some slack." Okay, great. Cut him some slack. Why? But yeah, so not a good storyline. And yes, I wanted to know why he said no. It was a fear of commitment, then which it seemed to suggest it was a fear of commitment. So if it's a fear of commitment, then does the fear of being killed suddenly extinguish that fear of commitment? I think that's what they're saying, or it's just a lazy, he's changed kind of thing.
Yeah, and there wasn't too much else to her character other than just that conflict.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of, like, you don't realize that you love somebody until they almost die. I'm like, that's not love, that's you being afraid of losing a constant in your life. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so so what do you think, my rating, 3.5 stars, is that about where you land, or
Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna bump it up to 4 just because we're coming fresh off of me giving Abigail 3.5 stars, and I'm definitely more in a rush to watch this again.
okay, that's fair. Um,
I'm giving it a 4.
okay. Yeah, and honestly, I think as a comedy troupe, this is pretty good material, and like you, I did not know that they don't seem to be still active, but now that I know, I am a little disappointed. I think a fun it would have been fun to see what other things they could have come up with, and if their ability to put together something like this improved with time, so who knows? Anyway, this is gonna be another short one, unless you'd like to hear some of my weird the weird Wikipedia hole I went down pertaining to Asylum.
Okay.
I apparently cannot get enough. So, apparently Asylum has one, never lost money on a movie, which whatever. But there's explanations for that. They've never lost money on a movie. They craft every single film based off of 100-word description.
Wow.
They ask their writers for 100-word prompt, and that is the limit. And they take that and turn it into a movie. So then, okay, it gets better. There's more of these weird little tidbits I found. So every single movie is serious in tone to the point where if they feel like the person in charge of producing the movie is getting too facetious with it, they will like write them a cease and desist and be like, no, this is a serious movie, okay, about a Sharknado. Like they will intervene and be like, you cannot be making fun of us. You cannot be making fun of our movies. That said, the tagline of Sharknado, which I kind of feel like makes their position a little unfair, because the tagline for Sharknado was enough said, which is just so wonderful because it's like, you know, it's tongue in cheek, but you don't want anyone else to be tongue in cheek but you. So like, only I can make fun of my mother. Is that what's happening? And then the last thing was, apparently they made 100 movies in 10 or 15 years. I forget what it was. But when they hit the 100th movie, they put out this thing that was like 100 movies, 15 years. You're welcome. So I was like, oh my God, they are so like, I don't know. I can't decide if I hate them for being this crappy movie factory, or if I love them for being so bold and also finding this clearly lucrative endeavor and just like milking it. So those are my weird little things I thought about Asylum after looking into it more.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's whoever owns it, it's their cash cow for sure. But anyway, did you happen to take a look at what we're doing next time?
Yeah, so speaking of B movies, next week we're visiting your favorite vegetable patch, Revenge Demon, and mine with Pumpkinhead Ashes to Ashes 2006. Because we didn't get enough bad movies with Doug Bradley in it.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be so great. Awesome. Okay. Well, hopefully any listeners we've garnered won't be too disappointed with our little shorter episodes, but this is one of them.
Until next time.
All right, until next time. This podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike 4.0 International License. For additional information and other media content, visit theferalthread.com. Thanks for listening. Until next week.